A very warm welcome and thank you so much for joining me on UCTV. My name is Nora Osende. Today is a special Sunday as we're going to highlight some of the stories that made headlines through the week. But not just that, we're going to dig into a little bit of the details with interviews from different personalities that are related to these very new stories. We shall have Father Charles Rwanga Sewava, who will dig into details of the late Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Kizito Rwanga. That's with the story of the mass that was held in his memory. We will also have so much other interviews, especially when it comes to autism, and then today being the Divine Mercy Sunday, we shall also talk a little bit about the Divine Mercy. Thank you so much for being with us. A very warm welcome and thank you so much for watching UCTV. My name is Nora Osende. Now today is a special day, of course. Now it's the 7th Sunday 2024 and we get to break down some of the stories that made headlines all through the week. Now some of our top stories that made headlines through the week is the memorial mass that was held at the St. Mary's Cathedral in Rubaga. Now this was in remembrance of the late Archbishop of Kampala, Dr. Cyprian Kizito Rwanga, of which so many people talked about him. Very, very good. He left a legacy that will last a lifetime. Friends, relatives, colleagues talked about him as being friendly, as being a servant leader, as being a very determined person when he decides to do something.
Twali tuli baana bato naye n'atukwata ku mikono, yatuyamba mu bintu bingi okutubuulirira, yayagala nnyo tusome era nga tayagalira ddala mwana atasomye oba tayagala kusoma, ate si kumala gasoma ne okusoma obulungi. Yayagala nnyo tubeere bakozi era nga tayagala bangalo bunani. Bwe tuwummula tulina okuddayo wakati ne tuyamba ku maama emirimu. Taata waffe yali musajja mulimi ng'ateeka tekisiti mu kereziya, so twalinanga emisiri gy'emmwanyi n'eppamba n'ensuku, so nga bwe tuddayo ayagala nnyo tuyambe ku maama ate tulime ate tumanye n'okukola emirimu.
And for sure his legacy will live on forever. With me in studio we have a father who had known the late Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Kizito Rwanga, and he's here to give us a little more detail about him, what they went through together, just in remembrance of the late Archbishop here. So with me in studio today, we have Father Charles Rwanga Sewava. Thank you so much, Father, for coming.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
So, Father, you could just introduce yourself and just tell us a little more about yourself before we can dig into other things.
I'm Father Charles Rwanga Sewava. I'm from the Archdiocese of Kampala. I was ordained in the Archdiocese of Kampala, 1979. And I studied with Archbishop from primary. He was in P7, I was in P6. So we traveled together in the seminary of Nyenga. And we developed a friendship, and it was sad that he was called by the Lord, but that is God's will. And I'm now currently in Ichiwatule Parish. I do the work there, and I'm happy to be a priest. I had a chance to study in the academy, the diplomatic academy in Rome, although I didn't become a nuncio. But the training was very fundamental and very important to me. And I am back. I was very happy to be back to Uganda. East or West, home is best. Yes. So I was very pleased to be back to Uganda. So I've traveled all these years in my priesthood, and I thank the Lord who has helped me very much too, and also my fellow priests and the Christians and everybody was being very useful to my life.
Well, we thank
Yes,
God for everything,
yes,
Heavenly Father,
yeah.
and we're so glad that all these journeys have truly still led you back home
yes,
here.
Yeah.
And there's something that you say that was very interesting about how you started your seminary actually way back, P6.
Yeah, P6. We started
We studied together.
at that time. Now P6 is not. It was in P7.
He was in P7.
P6
we were
was
in
called
P6.
P6 was called the preparatory. P7 was called low figure. Then P8. By that time there was P8, high figure. Then grammar. Then syntax. Then rhetoric. Then poetry. Then rhetoric. Senior 4. So it was a training of 7 years. So I met him in P7. He was a very, very clever boy, very well focused. He was ahead of us, but also in many ways he showed signs of leadership.
Cool.
Yes, organizing things and so on. And then he went to Katigondo, and we separated. At that time they started a major seminary in Gulu, Lokrum, so it was because it was national. They asked some students to go, each diocese had to give some students to go to Gulu. So I was one of the groups, one of the 6 who was taken to Gulu. Then we met in Gaba Seminary.
So you met in Gaba again?
Yeah, again, we
That's
met in Gaba,
afterwards.
yes. And then he was ordained a priest on 9th of April 1978. On that time I became a deacon. And then we stayed in the diocese. Then I went to Rome, and afterwards we also came to Rome to study. And we used to go in the same parishes to share the experiences and so on. We were staying in the Collegio San Paolo because in Rome, the college is the place where you sleep. Then you can go to there are different universities. So we were staying in the Collegio San Paolo. There are 2 major colleges, San Paolo or St. Peter's. So from there, of course, we used to meet and talk, but we didn't know that he was going to become a bishop. And then,
let me just take you back a bit in regards to when you met at Gaba.
Yes.
How was your experience with him in Gaba here?
Gaba was very nice. We're all major seminarians, of course, but he was a leader. He was conducting the choir. He was also well focused. No wonder when he was ordained, his first appointment was given to be the private secretary of the Cardinal Emmanuel Nsubuga.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
it was the first appointment. The first appointment he got.
He was a private
Yeah,
secretary.
he was very diplomatic and different way of doing things. So it was a great thing to be a secretary of the Cardinal at the first appointment. So, and then he was a leader. He was a leader, and he showed that. And he traveled with the Cardinal many different ways. When Pope Paul VI died, he made this first journey to Europe because he had to accompany the Cardinal. That was, he died in 6 August 1978. So he accompanied him, and he came back. He brought us some pictures of the Pope. We were very, very impressed by, seeing one of us being near the Cardinal, and showing us the pictures of the Pope, how we spoke with the Pope John Paul II, and it was very nice.
That is interesting. And then when you went to Rome,
yes.
how was it like there? How was your experience?
Mine or his?
His, you and him.
Okay. When he went to Rome, he was very humble. He asked us some books. We helped him because students help one another.
Yes.
In Rome, they don't speak another language except Italian. When you go there, you have to, the classes and everything, and the whole life is in Italian. So the quicker you learn the language. So what surprised me, he was very humble to ask him now, do you have some books of Italian? How do you say this word? And he was already a Monsignor, but he was humble enough to ask us for help. That impressed me very much, to see somebody who is willing to start again as a student. Now he had left the life he had been having. Now, because when you were a student, you were a student. Or whether you were Monsignor or what, you were a student, you need to do the homework, you need to be humble. So he had that humility to ask us who had been there before, was speaking Italian already, to ask us to help him. And I think that made me a great impression of his humility, because he would say, oh, well, I would do it by myself and so on. So he was repeating words after us as we pronounce them, say, no, this is say this, you know. Yes. It was very, very nice for him. And we traveled with him in different parishes, and he would keep a low profile and so on. Yes, and it was very nice. That gave me a very big impression of his humility and of being focused. He was focused on studies and so on.
Very, very interesting. So we see humility, we see a focused person, we see
and well organized.
A well-organized person,
we
see a humble person. It is very interesting. So you stayed in Italy, and then he came back.
Yeah, he came back. He was there, and I think he came back in 1990 something there, in 94. Yes, he did his studies in 4 years. 4 years he had finished his doctorate. Yeah, which was very quick also. Yes.
Okay. So when he came back, that's when he went through this whole process of being the Archbishop and
he came. Yes, and he was consecrated a bishop on 1st March 1997 when they created the two dioceses of Kasana-Luwero and of Lugazi. He was given Kasana. He was the first bishop of Kasana-Luwero diocese, and his ordination, I was in Rome, but I followed it. It was on 1st March 1997. Yes, and it was very nice. And when he came to Rome to visit, it was very interesting that he had already been in Rome, and he was already a bishop, but he kept a humble style. Yes, the people he had known before he came to us and so on, and we met him, and it was very nice to see him. Yeah.
Now tell me about the time you met the Pope and him in the equation. Tell me about that experience. We would like to know about that.
Which Pope Francis?
The Pope. That
okay. Well, I was in a parish, and he asked me to accompany him to Rome, and he had a very big meeting with the Pope. We went there, and we talked with the Pope. He was very kind, and of course, he had known him before, because the Pope had been to Uganda in 2015. The Pope came here to Uganda in 2015, 27th to 29th in November. Of course, he had known him, but this was a very particular visit. It was an official visit. So the Pope welcomed us very well, and afterwards he went to speak to him, and it was very nice. Yeah. I was a picture there.
This is very interesting.
Yes, and it was the Pope was welcoming me. The Archbishop is here, and the Pope was very, very kind, very humble man, and he gives when he welcomes you, you think you are the center of everything.
Yes.
He gives attention to you, and he's so kind. He say, welcome to the Vatican, I welcome you, and so on.
And how long ago was this, Father?
This was 2019.
Oh, this was in
2019. That is 2019. 2 years before he died, so he went there I was very pleased also to accompany him and to be able to see the Pope very close and so on. I'd already seen Pope John Paul II and Pope Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, but this was the first time. I did speak to the Pope. I said, thank you very much for your visit. Mutate grazie per la tua visita per Uganda, and he was very happy. because I told him in his language, in Spanish.
In Spanish?
Yeah, that thank you very much for the visit. So he said, but then he asked me a question. Do you remember what I said? So it was a bit, I said, yeah, you said many things about the word. Yeah, he gave you an answer, but I didn't tell Liza. He said many things in Namugongo and many other things.
So a lot has been said really when it comes to the late Archbishop
Yes.
Dr. Cyprian Chizitamanga.
Yeah.
And one thing that really stands out, or there are several things that stand out, we have humility. He was a focused person. He showed leadership skills right from the beginning, and
Yeah.
there's no doubt about that he rose to the position that he rose because of the character
Yes.
that he actually possessed. What he has left a lasting legacy that's no doubt for sure that is going to last for a lifetime. What are some of the things that you remember about him as a person,
Yeah.
having known him and come from a very from way back?
Yeah. Well, I felt that he knew what he wanted in life, and he really worked very hard. You know, he showed that spirit of working very hard and being organized, because he used to come for the meetings for Caritas, and he was chosen. He was chosen the vice president of the Caritas. You know, they had just been meeting there for the short time, and he was very focused. And he said, "We do this," and was a man in a hurry. He said, "No, if I don't do it, who will do it?" For example, you know, he came with a plan for when he was a bishop of Kasana Ruel. He showed me the plan of the house. He said, "I've made this and so on. It has to be implemented quickly." And, you know, well organized, and you could see somebody who knew where he was going.
Very visionary.
Yes, and he was brought to the archdiocese. He became Archbishop on 30th September 2006. And he laid quickly the many points he wanted to see. And it was very impressive that at night he would get up and do these things and so on, and work and write them down and keep a diary and so on. So
it would work
for us who are not gifted in that way, we are not gifted. God gives gifts to people in different ways, but he showed that kind of leadership and that dedication and not giving up and doing so many things at the same time and knowing exactly, and then being with the people. Because although he was very busy, he would find time for us. He would find time for us, and you know, and then he takes you very seriously. He hears your opinion, and that was something very interesting. Yeah, yeah. And you give an advice. He says, "Okay, that's good, very good. We shall do it." And then you see that he's putting it in practice. So he had a lot of knowledge of getting information from people and so on, and putting it together and making a decision. And it's not very easy to do such things. For me, that's what really impressed me, that kind of dedication and focus and knowledge, and being able to do things, move things and so on, make a change. And when something needs to be changed, he changes it. It was very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you learned from him, being close to him? There must have been something that you learned from him, a few things that you picked up along the way in your life's journey.
His gentleness and his being focused and his remembrance and his adaptation to things and so on. And there's also his capacity for languages. Because one day we went with him to France, and he said the mass and preached to after some time, the people were really wondering, you know. And I said, how did you do that? You know, you have been in Uganda for a long time, you have not been practicing French. But he
did it quite
he did it quite well. And he's making friends, you know. He had so many different friends in Europe and so on. And they respected him. Yeah. He commanded respect, which is very, very important. And I remember when one day we went to the Vatican, I said, oh, the Archbishop. And he said, he's very, very active. So he knew the people to approach, the propaganda feed. Then he said, you accompany to propaganda feed, then this evening I have an appointment with this. And so he took the people seriously. He knew the people, he took them seriously, and they took him seriously. For us, we're just passing through things and so on. Well, we don't make an impression on people and so on. But he was making always an impression on people.
Yeah, that is.
Yes, and I think I remember him for that. He writes it down, their telephones, and he says, "This we are going to see the dean of this congregation, because in Rome there are different congregations, yes. And it's the center of Christianity. Rome is the center of Christianity." And another thing, he asked me one day to take him to visit Rome. He said, "I've been here, but I don't know the different churches. I would like." I said, "Yeah." Yes, he says, every time he was learning, when he goes to, when we used to go for pilgrimages, he would be interested to learn. Although he had been in Rome, you know, there are more than 900 churches in Rome.
Yes.
There are 4 big ones. And every time you go, there's historical things and so on. He was putting his note and writing it down. And I was so impressed by that.
That is.
Yeah, his ability to learn and to be open to learn new things was impressive. Yeah, I think that is something which you don't find normally with the people. Yes. Because he was already an archbishop, but we were making a pilgrimage, he would just be humble. And okay, that is that. Listening very attentively to what was being said. Yes.
Indeed, that's very impressive. Is there a light moment that you shared along the way? I know, because the life's journey is quite long.
Yes.
And we hear how he was so focused and he exhibited very good leadership skills, and he had so much going on in
and also remembering people. He was in high press, but he would know exactly each and everybody. And this one is like this is one like this.
And he knew them in person, detail, not just knowing, I know Father so-and-so, and I know this so-and-so, but he actually took the time to get to know people.
To know people.
That is very, very impressive.
Yeah, that's the impression I got myself. I don't know whether, but others, he would know you, and he would know and exactly. And when you appear, he say, what's wrong with you? You are not very happy.
He would go to that level of knowing if somebody is not exactly feeling well, or there's something that is off. Wow, that is so impressive. And that means that he really took a keen interest in people, and he loved people.
Yeah. And he was also very generous, because all the things he did, he didn't do them for himself. He would say, he would say things are there, but one day when in Rome, I saw him giving some money to. He said, "You give also something." I said, "Okay." Something very interesting to see somebody who is in high press, but he's thinking was what is worried about things. We have to make it this, to construct this, and so on. I'm thinking about this, and taking the time to think for others. Others don't think for yourself, but he would take a time to think for others. Yeah, and I think that is very interesting to notice.
Very special.
Yeah, very special. Yeah,
very
yes,
special
yeah.
Well,
and he had a lot to give, and I think death took him very quickly, but he had a lot to contribute. Yes.
Really. Well, we are discussing some of the stories that made headlines through the week. We had a memorial mass at the St. Mary's Cathedral in Rubaga.
Third anniversary.
It was an anniversary. It has been 3 years since the death of the late Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Chizitoranga. And the late Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Chizitoranga, his legacy truly lives on. We had so much to talk about him. With me, Father Charles Wanga Sewava is actually in studio, and we are discussing some of the things, the legacy and his life experience with the late Archbishop. Now, I just want to know any light moments that you had with him, anything that at a certain point, cracked you up and just
Yeah, we would meet in Rome and, go to a restaurant and speak about the things and, laugh and so on,
Yes.
It was very moving, that moment. He would find the time, when he would come in the meetings. He would meet also the seminarians, not only me, but also the seminarians, the priests. He would call them and give them time. He would be there and say, I'm coming to Rome and I would like to meet you. And I would like, sometimes people, don't have time for others, but he had time for each and every one. He would know the seminarians had sent and so on, and look after their needs. It was it was very nice.
It was good.
Yeah,
really,
yes, yeah.
Really. So now that we have talked about some of the things that the late Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Kizito actually did, today is a Sunday, and it's Divine Mercy Sunday.
Oh, yes.
And you being here with us, it gives us an opportunity to talk about Divine Mercy Sunday.
Yes.
What is exactly Divine Mercy Sunday? What does that entail?
Yeah,
How did it come into place?
Okay. First of all, it comes from Jesus himself, because he asked Sister Faustina Kowalski. She lived between 1905. She died in 1938. She was 33 years. She had a vision with Jesus. And he said he wanted the second Sunday after Easter to be dedicated to him. And that was in one of the appearances. When you read in the diary, the book is called The Diary of Sister Faustina. Now, I was in Rome when the Pope canonized Sister Faustina on the 30th April 2000. It's going to be 24 years. And the Pope, in canonization of Sister Faustina Kowalski, also established that the second Sunday after Easter should be of Divine Mercy. And Pope John Paul II was so much dedicated to Divine Mercy. Actually, when he wrote 14 letters, encyclical letters, they're called encyclical letters, they go in the whole world, 14 of them. But in 1980, he wrote a very good one on Mercy of God, Dives in Misericordia, he calls it in Latin. And he showed that mercy. So it was a great privilege for him to canonize Sister Faustina Kowalski and give as Jesus had asked her, to give that day, second Sunday, to establish it officially, that the second Sunday would be of Divine Mercy. And of course, people do the prayers and to show that, Jesus is so merciful. God is rich in mercy. He gave us his Son, he suffered for us, and he rose for us, and he's going to give us eternal life and gives us life in this life. And that, I think, that's what the Divine Mercy is, that we should look at God as a merciful Father. That's why one theologian said that when they asked him, do you believe in heaven? I said, yes. But do you believe in hell? He said, no, because God is full of mercy. So that is how the background came. But John Paul II was a man of dedicated to Mass. He was a Pope from 1978, 16th October. He died on 2nd April 2005, and was canonized. He was also made a saint on the 27th April 2014. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Divine Mercy actually means that we pray and we thank Jesus for what he did for us, for having allowed himself to go on the cross and to have died for us and risen for us. So we look at God as God of mercy, who takes care of us because we are all limited, and so on.
So takes mercy to do
so
that.
it is called the second Sunday of after Easter, or Divine Mercy.
Or Divine Mercy.
The Divina Misericordia, Divine Mercy.
Divine Mercy. Very nice and very special
Yes.
Sunday that is. What are the activities that we expect in
Well,
Divine Mercy Sunday?
Yes, people pray, and I think in Rubaga, they have the relics of Sister Faustina. They have some ceremonies there. And also the diary keeps us, you know, now people like that Divine Mercy devotion very, very much, because at 3 p.m. they say the prayers and so on. And when you go to Rome, near the Vatican, there is a shrine of the Divine Mercy of the sisters there, of Sister Faustina Kowalski. And people flock there and to ask for God's mercy, because we need all God's mercy to help us to go through life.
Surely.
Yes, yeah.
Surely. Yes.
And it is a big devotion. Father Mayanja of Rubaga, I think, keeps telling people about it and so on. Yes, yeah.
Well, we are really privileged to have you to talk about the Divine Mercy Sunday, and then the life of the late Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Toranga. And before we actually close off, what message can you give to our Christians out there, especially on this day of Divine Mercy?
Okay. My message is, of course, which comes from my heart, is not to worry, but to be happy, to trust that God will have the final word, as John Paul II said. Because when I was in Rome, I was very much influenced by him. He was the Pope then. He was a very strong man. He always said, don't worry, God is always going to be with you. So Divine Mercy means God is with us in all circumstances, in our difficulties and so on. He is there. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much,
yes.
Father Charles.
Because
Rwanga.
he used to say, no, don't be afraid. Open the doors to Christ. Non abbiate paura, aprite le porte a Cristo. Don't be afraid, open the doors to Christ. It was his word. So in difficulties of our lives and so on, we have to have the Spirit to raise us up, to keep going. Yeah.
Well, that is a very,
yes.
very wonderful word,
yes.
really, that everyone can apply in their
yes.
day-to-day lives. I think it's very encouraging. I mean, I think you have really lifted our spirits with this conversation.
Yes,
and
yes.
I can't thank you so much, Father Charles Rwanga Sewava. Thank you so much for making time to come and speak to us, to come and interact with us and give us more insights in different aspects. It has been really, really good having you today.
Okay, thank you very much.
It is Sunday, 7th, and we are very glad and very privileged that we have had Father Charles Rwanga here, breaking us down and giving us the details of the life of the late Archbishop of Kampala, the late Dr. Cyprian Toranga. We've also talked about Divine Mercy today, and his word has been, do not get worried. God is
in control.
Is in control.
Yes.
God is in control. That's one thing for
yes.
sure. And we thank you so much for being with us. Well, we'd like to say have a great evening, and we look forward to many more Sundays like this.
Thank you.
A very good evening, and thank you so much for staying with us on UCTV as we wrap up the top stories that made the headlines. Now, I am Nora Sende, but bursting on our story through the week, we talked about autism, and there was an appeal by the Autism Society Uganda to recognize the World Autism Day in Uganda. And so with me in studio today, we have the Executive Director of Autism Society of Uganda, basically, to give us more in-depth about what exactly they're calling for, to talk about autism, make sure that we get into the nitty-gritties of some of these details. Well, with me, I have Dorothy Nambi, who is the Executive Director, Autism Society, Uganda, and I'm very glad to have you, Dorothy. Dorothy, good to have you in studio.
Thank you, Nora. I'm also proud that I'm here today. And being the Autism Month, we really want to say out our message to everyone who is watching out there.
Very nice. Now, in the news, or in the event that we covered, one of the greatest appeal that you made was that government needs to come out and really recognize autism and celebrate it in Uganda. Why? Why is that so important to you?
Wow. So as as an individual, sometimes when you feel celebrated, you feel the pride. You imagine you're neglected and you're behind there and no one will ever see that you're really there. So when we talk of autism being a very big challenge, it's an international problem. I got a chance and went to the United Kingdoms and I found my friends working with these children. But then she told me the country this side recognizes the children, they embrace them, they even have a special day. So the World Autism Day in the Western world is taken as a special day. So that's why, personally, I would also feel my country has to recognize this. And that's the appeal to my government.
Mm-hmm. So when the country recognizes, let's say Uganda recognizes this day as you know, an official day in Uganda, what does that bring with it?
Wow, I would really feel there is a lot that will come with it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel there will be a lot that will come with it. I would surprise you when I met a father when I was in UK who told me that I want to come and see where those martyrs were killed. Mm-hmm. I said to him, you want to come to the shrines at the on the Uganda Martyrs Day? He said, wow, so this message has gone far. So how will it be one time, one day, when Uganda has also embraced this day? Mm. There will be a lot that will come with it. Mm. More children will come out. It's like when the Kabaka is celebrating his birthday run. Mm-hmm. And you know, he has recognized, like, let's say HIV. So if one time, one day, this message comes out that there is an international day for persons living with autism, means that even those children who are hidden will be brought to space. Government maybe will come in with maybe resources. When we say we've seen like musical instruments are of help to our children, maybe they will try to help us get more of these instruments, and any other child in any other place where they are can maybe have access. Because we've seen music changing our children. But the challenge is the instruments are very expensive. The tax is very high. So when this is recognized, we believe that many more opportunities will come with it.
Yeah, very nice. Yes, and we look forward for those opportunities really to come, much needed opportunities. You talked about visiting the UK. The UK and Uganda, these are very different societies in terms of development, in terms of culture. And I can imagine probably the way they embrace autism and different disabilities out there is very different from the way we Ugandans handle such scenarios. What would you want to see our society do more when it comes to autism?
Actually, when we talk of witchcraft, it's what I was asking myself. Do the whites also believe in witchcraft? So when it comes to Uganda and someone is like, my child was bewitched, then the man would run away kind of running, blaming the woman. So maybe this kind of a stereotype imagination will end. Because those people never sacrifice their children. But then the children are the same. When you see a child with autism in Uganda, I've seen one behave the similar way, and I'm like, wow. These are brothers and sisters. Our behavior is related. So if we are one in the mind, how are the other people doing it? They've actually supported a single mother to raise this child. They are given the best kind of care. And that's maybe, if this comes also to our country, we have so many marital problems. The family has broken down because the child has autism. So imagine this mother with this child who has this challenge, which is a lifelong problem. So for me, I'm like, if it comes to that day that the government has recognized us, I believe there are many opportunities that will come. There are organizations that are looking after these children, but they're asking a lot of money. It's expensive to raise this child. But when in the Western world the government takes on, you feel they've really taken on the burden from this mother. how will it be one time when the burden is taken off from this mother? I'm glad when the minister said there are small grants that can be given on to these mothers. I was like, yes, because we have come together, now this message is moving on. So who knows whether our government is going to crawl now to this other mileage to say, where are these mothers of these children? Here is a 1 million for you. Start up something. For me, that is my call.
Oh, yes. And when you talked about embracing these children, and there's one thing that is always talked about how disease, I mean, not a condition, because it's not a disease, that's one thing for sure. A condition like autism, for some people think that it is an upper end, high class kind of condition, but we have seen that it cuts across the board. Can you highlight more on that?
Actually, I like the word high class. You know, it's been rated to, these are children of rich people, these are children of high class. This is wrong. We've seen a story where this child was in Buyende district, and this child is from that family. I won't really describe. But then how they've been treating this boy, early in the morning he's put on a rope, then under a tree. Then in the evening comes, they take him back in the house. So are they also high class? They're not. Autism is everywhere. It's in my family, it's in your family. In some generation you did not see, this person was there. When you talk of genetics, we can't rule it out, which there are some generations we did not see. But maybe these people were in our family. When we try to now talk to friends, one is like, maybe I'm also autistic. Talk about this character. So that kind of an imagination should really be put down, and that's why we are there to raise awareness.
Right. Now, in our conversation earlier on in the week, you highlighted the need for inclusivity when it comes to educating autism people or children. How is that important to you?
Well, I think now I'll go back to Donor Center. I am the executive director of Donor Center Home for Autism, where I now see my children very practical. When it comes to briquette making, you know, they don't mind. They now even know the steps, that we shall get our clay, put it in water overnight, then in the morning we will make it porridge. And they're okay. Of course, to us it's even motor skills. Right. Then they will know from that porridge we shall put it together with the charcoal dust and we shall mold and get some balls. We're blessed that the government gave us a small grant. We bought an electrical machine that now produces some briquettes. So my children can go and pick the briquettes when the machine pushes them out. They love picking them and then putting them on a tray to the shade where they will dry from. So if he's maybe taken through this, and that is where I have to perfect from, they deserve to get a certificate. This is now vocational training I'm talking about. Right. So is our curriculum embedded, or is it sufficient enough to favor all of us? Some children don't want to see a book. But when it comes to practical things, I am okay. I saw them make pancakes. I'm looking at entrepreneurs in my organization. So who knows who they will be. So if our curriculum can get into the practical side of it, it means it will favor these other children also on the spectrum. I've seen YMCA come out with a curriculum that is so much in practical skilling. And I was trying to say, I wish you can borrow this idea. Take it to our curriculum and say, if this is okay, let it be now for persons living with autism. And they'll also graduate. I am a mother. I would feel one day seeing my child also put on that gown, and then like, you've excelled maybe in jewel making, maybe in carpentry, maybe in brick making, maybe in shoe making, because some things that are visible, children with autism love routine. Something which may be continuous to them will be okay. So we only just need to have that positive mind that they can make it.
Right.
So we are calling on the people who are designing the curriculum. Are they thinking of those people on the spectrum who also maybe need just maybe a specific kind of an item and alone excel in that? We've seen ourselves. We don't have to be perfect in everything. But if I can just pick on one skill that will be enough for me.
Indeed, indeed. And that is something that is very important, because sometimes when we talk about autism, we think that it is something so far away, something that it's beyond redemption, yeah? But these are people, these are human beings with lives, with
Actually, did you
aspirations.
see them do hair making?
Yes, yes.
And they love
yes.
that, you know, continuity. By the time you finish that rope, you finished and it's something continuous. If I'm going up, down, up, down,
Yes.
up, down. And that is it.
It is.
If I'm in your salon, I may not need to be talking.
Exactly.
I'll only need to be, and then I'm
Doing
done.
your
And then
work.
you go away.
Yes.
Empower me.
Very, very important there. When it still comes to educating, there was a need, you highlighted as we were talking, you know, off camera, you highlighted the importance of including these autistic people or children with the communities, be it in schools, be it in whatever sector. Why is that very important?
Oh, wow. So I think I'll go back now to Donor Center, where I've seen our friends from Brussels, Africa, train our children in music.
You're right.
And they brought the community children to sit together with our wonderful people. And we've seen this kind of a combination really work. Because when it is music, you don't have to see whether I am this different, but you're only just going to enjoy the music. So when the band is playing, you don't have to say, I am autistic. Just enjoy the music. So that is where we see inclusion is now coming to work in some kind of like corners. With music, it's okay. When we are making briquettes and there is another ordinary person together with me, the briquettes, talk about the briquettes, don't talk about my difference. Actually, now that's where, see my ability, not my disability.
Right. Right. Very, very important there. See my ability and not my disability. Our society has a lot of stigma, not just with autism, but with other sorts of conditions. And how are you handling that? What is your experience with stigma, especially in our Ugandan society, where culture is so embedded and affects our perception about different things?
Wow, and I think that's where, as the Autism Society, we come out to say we need to continue sensitizing the public. The society needs to understand this more. When it comes to us even wishing to maybe sensitize also the media, you know, when someone says disease, you feel down. When someone talks and mentions it different, you feel down. We are like, how can this message continue moving? Because the society is very big. The society has like a variety of people who need to understand and get the message very well. It actually comes back to the family. When the family has a misunderstanding because the child is like this, we have a lot to kind of support them, encourage them. This is not the end. There are many genius people who people think this wasn't possible, but then they are doing some things. We are holding smartphones that were invented by people on the spectrum. So if we miss out that, we shall miss genius people in our societies.
And we don't want to miss the genius people, do we?
We don't.
Well, thank you so much, Dorothy. It has been nice having you. Well, it is the roundup, and we are discussing some of the stories that made the headlines, and so that autism is a very, very, very important topic. And it's not one topic that we're just going to discuss yesterday, but we look forward to so many other, you know, engagements in regards to autism in Uganda and world over, and how we can manage this. One thing for sure is that we call upon government to recognize it, recognize the day. We call upon the curriculum actually to highlight some of these needs that autistic children have, and then society out there, please embrace these children with love. It is a condition that anyone could have at any time. I am Nora Sende, and thank you so much for watching UCTV News. Well, we've had details from different perspectives of people. People who worked with the late Archbishop, people who are affected by autism, and we have given you insights. And thank you so much for being with us this very Sunday, the 7th of April, 2024. My name is Nora Osende. I can't wait to be with you next Sunday. Do have yourselves a blessed Sunday and a good night.